the producers of 47 Meters Down have brought us yet another heart-pounding story of survival, where sacrifice may be the only way out. Fall was released to the big screen in September this year, and if you haven't seen it yet, you should. Fear reaches new heights, literally, and we just have to discuss the ending and share the craziest fan theory making headlines. The plot, the name gives it away. Becky and Hunter, a duo of highly trained and resourceful climbers, are unprepared for a fast drop and a sudden stop, finding themselves trapped 2,000 feet up an abandoned radio tower in the desert. Turns out they were not ready for every eventuality. It's a roller coaster ride for the emotions. A few movies can be so intense that they make you hold on to the armrests in your seat. Fall is an experience that makes all of those other films look like child's play. You might be thinking, what were they doing at the top of a 2,000-foot pole? Well, widow Becky, Grace Caroline Curry, and her bestie Hunter, Virginia Gardner, went 2,000 feet up to spread the ashes of Becky's late husband. It turns out to be a test of friendship as well as survival. What ensues is a series of unfortunate events that leaves the women trapped atop the tower, with no food, no water, and no cell reception that would allow them to call for help. Then, with emotions already running high, Hunter drops a bombshell that turns the situation on its head. She had an affair with Becky's boyfriend before he died in a mountain climbing accident the previous year. At first, it seems like these two fighting friends might pull together to survive, but just like all the best movies, the producers have one last gruesome surprise in store. One of the friends is actually already dead. Hunter. How did Hunter die? With the dirty secret of Hunter's affair out in the open, it's stinking up the platform worse than Becky's festering leg wound. 24 hours have passed since the couple tried dropping Hunter's phone in a shoe with a distress message, in the hopes that it might catch cell reception at the base of the tower. They can only assume 60,000 of her social media followers haven't gotten the call to action, and now the phone is smashed to useless bits below. With no signal on their phones, and an attempt to drop one to the ground having failed, Hunter decides to rappel down to the dish antenna below them. Valiantly or foolishly, Rebecca unhooks herself from the safety rope and takes a risky leap to the dish. With some MacGyverish quick thinking, she uses the backpack as a counterweight, fastening it to the rope and using Becky to haul it up. But how did Hunter get back up? After the backpack recovery sequence, viewers witness a number of clues that lead them to suspect that all is not what it seems. For instance, Hunter disappears from the platform in the night. Becky awakens and cries out for her. Vultures swarm in the darkness, bringing scares before revealing Hunter's bloody corpse on the platform. But then Becky wakes up again and finds Hunter sitting beside her. The death seems to be another of Becky's horrific nightmares, which have plagued her since her husband plunged to his death. In a bigger clue, Hunter's character dramatically changes after the radio tower stunt. She was brave enough to climb the ladder and make the jump for the backpack, but now she is no longer willing to propose risky ideas anymore. In some sort of character swap, she becomes the more cautious and level-headed one. Hunter warns Becky to turn the drone around before it runs out of battery power, and advises her to eat, rest, and drink water from the retrieved backpack. But Hunter herself never sleeps or takes another sip. The first time you watch The Fall, you might think the protagonist is sacrificing for a friend as a recompense for her betrayal, but guilt does not equal superhuman endurance. Turns out Hunter never returned to the platform after getting the bag, and she has been a hallucination of Becky's ever since then. Her dead body is seen on the dish antenna, indicating that Becky has imagined her friend is still alive as a way to cope with a horrific situation. Or is she still there in spirit? But in the end, though Hunter was not physically present, it was still her who saved her friend. Or did she? Stay put to hear the controversial fan theory ending. The movie went on to show Becky using a life hack that Hunter showed her at the diner, plugging the charging cord into a lamp socket. By doing so, she recharges the drone by using her wedding band to complete the circuit, a painful reminder of her late husband and his infidelity. But in a cruel callback to the first act, the drone flies to the motel with its SOS note and then is crushed by a truck, like Hunter and Becky almost were when they first pulled out of the parking lot at the start of the movie. All that's left to do is for Becky to climb down and make a last-ditch attempt to send a message. She uses the rope to rappel down to the antenna and stuffs her phone into Hunter's shoe. She then forces it into a wound of the deceased's body and pushes it down to the ground. Sure, there are some things about The Fall that are predictable, but we bet you didn't see that one coming. With the signal restored, the text message to her father alerting him of her whereabouts is delivered. We get a happy-ish ending. Her father arrives at the scene to find paramedics, officials, and his daughter alive. The controversial fan theory? Becky actually dies. The ending of the film is open to interpretation. It seems that Becky survives, but another way to interpret it is that she died just like Hunter. Hunter. After all, given the Hunter reveal, we already know that what we see on screen isn't necessarily true. It is possible that Becky died in the attempt to do the same thing Hunter did, travel down to the dish. Her rescue could just be another fantasy playing out in her head after she falls to the antenna. The alternative theory is that she never tried to climb down it at all, and the rescue was a hallucination from the top as she succumbed to total exhaustion. Though the majority of viewers found it exhilarating, others controversially found it less than thrilling. CG Mag reviewer Brendan Fry called the film a 2,000-foot drop of mediocrity. Fry claims Fall manages to be both nerve-wracking and dull during the 1 hour and 45-minute runtime. Let us know if you agree. Just one word of advice: the movie is set almost entirely in the air, so it's not a good choice for people with a fear of heights. During a recent interview with MovieWeb, Scott Mann opened up about what inspired him to make Fall. The inspiration was personally being scared of heights, like a lot of people I think. It actually started when myself and Jonathan Frank, the co-writer, were shooting a sequence for another movie in London on top of a football stadium. He continued, even though we were getting a spectacle for the movie, it was actually where we stood on this kind of a small space, looking straight down, that I remembered thinking, heights hasn't really been done fully in a film yet. There's never been something purely focused on that fear. And it was fear-inducing, definitely. The final product is an emotional roller coaster for viewers. But what are the physical and emotional challenges for the cast while filming a movie like Fall? In an exclusive interview with The List, Grace Curry detailed the challenges she faced playing Becky. It was a lot of crying, she said. Not just crying once, but I would cry multiple takes, and a lot of times I would just cry my guts out. During her interview with The List, Curry discussed the biggest challenges of filming, as well as how she overcame them to make her character feel genuine. In the film, Becky suffers trauma after trauma and extreme circumstances. As an actress, Grace Caroline Curry had to access that emotion, but she was also careful not to overdo it, so it didn't seem like Becky was whining. She said if she wasn't careful, it could have just been Grace crying up there. It's hard to make a character interesting when they're stuck in one place. Curry didn't want Becky to get flat just because she was stuck on top of a radio tower, which also made it trickier when filming scenes out of order. Despite that, she still had to follow her character's emotional progression. She admits it was a lot of mental gymnastics and very exhausting, but very rewarding. Grace Caroline Curry also had a lot of stunts to do while filming Fall, and she didn't have much time to train due to COVID-19. Fortunately, she says they built up to harder stunts over time. We can imagine that filming in the desert was difficult too. Curry said, "We were out in the sun for hours with a little pulley system to get us water. It was crazy. Despite the many challenges, filming was entirely worth it. It's refreshing to see a whole new visual style in a movie, and Fall brings it. So if you're looking for something unique, look no further than Fall. All in all, it's definitely worth a watch, so go enjoy. Thanks for watching."